The first cooking video I ever made, before I even had a YouTube channel about cooking, was a lesson on plating this sandwich. I instructed all 5 of my target viewers to cut their sandwich on a bias and then position it thusly, with one half leaning on the other. I stand by that as a pillar of plating food at home because those 2 simple steps achieve so many fundamental plating goals. Cutting it in half shows the cross-section. Now, instead of one brown visual mass, there is color and contrast. Cutting it on the bias shows off more of the cross-section than a flat cut would, and a diagonally cut sandwich will stand up taller with a big, prolific point. Learning how to plate food online is sort of like trying to learn interior design or basic photography. Most of the instruction feels like it's targeted towards people who already know what a boho, japandi, rhythm, or f8 aperture is. As if only professional chefs care about nice plating, most of the instruction I found focuses around presentation of fine dining dishes with squeeze bottles and tweezers. There's certainly a time and a place for that sort of style, but these basic concepts of plating can apply to your normal, everyday dinners. So, back to height. If there's only one thing that you focus on after this lesson, let it be height. When you twirl pasta into a tight little nest before landing it on the plate, that's for height. 90% of the time that you see a tuna tartare, it's packed into a ring mold before serving. Look at how much height that achieves compared to just laying it into a bowl. This new height-centric mindset requires you to do away with the cafeteria-style plating you learned as a youth, where everything is separated into little mounds. Good plating rarely takes into account the types of people who can't stand to have their food touching. In fact, there's one really popular approach where you start with a puree or a mash, and then top that with a salad or a slaw of some kind, and then top that with a piece of protein. That's a great default daily driver for plating with height in mind at home, regardless of what's on the menu. Apple puree, Brussels sprout slaw, pork chop, sweet potato puree, kale salad, chicken thigh, cauliflower puree, bean salad, piece of salmon. I attribute this trend to 2016 era chef steps, and it had a chokehold on home plating for a good while at the time. Almost as impactful as height is contrast. I think you'd be hard-pressed to find a more ubiquitous garnish than minced parsley. Certain regional foods might use cilantro or chives, but parsley is the premier goes-on-everything ingredient because it introduces a valuable pop of green without too much in the way of flavor. That's why it's the go-to, but you can usually make a more contextually appropriate choice instead. If you've got a big bowl of monochromatic red pasta, chopped basil brings striking green contrast. In the absence of herbs, a shower of grated parm adds a flash of white instead. This dish is called chilaquiles. It's a pan full of tortilla chips simmered in red chili sauce. It's all very one note visually until you drizzle lines of bright white crema across it. Professionals would probably turn their noses up at the idea of garnishing these teriyaki meatballs with high contrast sesame seeds and scallion slices because of how played out the garnish is, but again, this is a guide for beginners, and if you're just getting started, some contrast on the dish is better than none, so fret not regarding whether your garnish is passé. Try to introduce another color whenever you can. This poached egg in yogurt is all white, but red chili oil brings striking contrast. This mole is one shade of brown, but adding sesame seeds, even though they're just a different shade of brown, adds visual interest. After you've figured out height and contrast, you can wade into the deeper waters of composition. This is the arena in which restaurants have every advantage over you. Great restaurants have interesting little morsels that they can position on dozens of different dishware designs, but your plating options are far more limited when dinner is a single hunk of food on the same bowls and plates every single night. I think virtually all home cooks can do almost everything they need with plain white round plates, but if you're gonna get a couple specialty pieces to improve your composition, here's what I'd pick first. 1. A rectangular or long oval plate for things like tacos, sliced steaks, or seafood crudo. The length facilitates the arrangement of foods that look best displayed in a straight line. 2. An extra large platter for family-style meals like the big centerpiece roasted chicken or pork shoulder that's meant to be passed around. 3. A couple one-offs, be they collectible, sentimental, or just fun to have. I've got a couple handmade dishes that are almost never the best choice, but on the rare occasion that they are, it's such a treat. Consider frozen French fries hot out of the air fryer. It's not a fancy meal, so why try to make it look like one? Dump those fuckers on a plastic basket for a diner look, or a sheet of newspaper for chip shop nostalgia. Same for barbecue. This meat belongs on a sheet pan lined with butcher paper, not fine gold-rimmed porcelain. The point of plating with intention is not to make something look fancy. It's to communicate a sense of care. If you ask me to pour you a glass of lemonade, I'm gonna put a little lemon wheel on the rim. Same concept. It has no effect on the taste until you remember that food and drink taste better when you sprinkle in all those seemingly inconsequential niceties. I still try to plate my food with intention even if I'm eating it by myself. It's good practice for the times in which I'm serving others, and it feels nice to arrange myself a little treat. I think the problem with plating media is that it usually relies on tricks instead of fundamentals. But now that you know the fundamentals, here are a couple tricks. 1. My favorite way to add a sauce or a puree or a gel to a plate is like this. Plop a dollop down and smear a line across. You can do it in a straight line or an arc, and I like how this doesn't get an extra dish dirty like a squeeze bottle. 2. Slices of meat from thin cuts like skirt steak look puny on a plate until you learn that slicing at a steep angle makes each piece look much more substantial. 3. The quenelle is a lovely little trick to do at dinner parties, kind of like cracking open someone's beer for them with the butt of a lighter is a lovely little trick at college parties, but it does take a lot of practice and sometimes comes across as fussy, so I wouldn't recommend it until you've nailed the aforementioned basics. Here's me putting a quenelle of caviar next to a soy-cured egg yolk enveloped in creme fraiche. Very fancy, very high concept plating here, but incredibly snooty. 4. When it comes to sauces, seasonings, or fixins on the side, the value of a tiny dish cannot be overstated. The other day, my father-in-law came over to eat and commented on how much he loves the fact that the food I give him always comes with little bowls on the side for dipping or garnishing. Never overlook the tiny dish. 5. Some things are just ugly. Look at this big bowl of brown. If I take an inconsequential amount of cream, there's contrast. A couple minced chives and there's color. A little breadstick on the rim for presentation breaks outside that circular plane for height, composition, and looky-loo, with just a little effort, you've got a well-composed dish at home. 6. There's an Instagram account called Home Chef Seattle, and it's a fantastic source of high-effort plating tricks that are still somewhat feasible at home, even if you just use them once a year for something like your anniversary dinner. I expect at least some viewers to be intimidated or overwhelmed by the notion of one more thing to think about when cooking itself is hard enough. But remember, Aesop said, "A crust eaten in peace is better than a banquet partaken in anxiety." The point you take from this video should not be that there is a best way to serve your food at home. The fine dining tricks that I mentioned at the beginning of this lesson ain't it, nor are the techniques that I've outlined for you today. Whether you serve individually plated meals or one big family-style platter, the point isn't to do it right, but to do it at all. I'll leave you with a quote from Tamar Adler's An Everlasting Meal. You, of course, are not I, and it must be from someplace in you, not me, that you serve. If you like symmetry, you must line things up. If you feel most satisfied composing plates away from your table, do it happily, for it will be genuine and full of what is yours to offer. Only remember what is plainly and always true. The act of serving fulfills itself. Trade has paid to be mentioned at the end of this video. Trade is a specialty coffee marketplace that matches you with your new favorite coffees from roasters across the country. Their people travel around and build relationships with locally owned coffee roasters all over the country and then make it available to you. Trade doesn't make any of its own coffee. Instead, they link up with independent roasters, places that you would love if you lived nearby, and curate the best of the best for you to enjoy at home. The coffee that they sell, from dark roasts and single origins to decafs and espressos, is roasted to order and then shipped to you within 48 hours of roasting. It has been a long, hot, iced coffee summer, but this month I'm transitioning back to a cortado every morning, and it's easy as letting Trade know that I want a whole bean coffee that'll make good espresso that pairs well with whole milk. If you make coffee at home, get ready to discover how much better it can be with Trade. That's coffee at home made better. Head to drinktrade.com/Shaquille to receive your first bag for free. Trade guarantees that you will love your first bag or they will replace it for free. That's drinktrade.com/Shaquille for your first bag free when you subscribe.